Yo, what's going on people? It's Spencer here, and we're back for another DTC Draft League video. Just like last time, I'll be going over the highlights of Week 3, going through scoreboard and kill leaders, talking about the best overall prep and play, and then going to our feature battle. So let's go ahead and get started with the standings for the week. The Tennessee Tyranitar starts off with a 4-0 versus the Den Haag Duramacas, as the Destin Lucarios come back with a 4-0 win versus the Apollo Dragonites. Meanwhile, the DC Duraludons carry a 6-0 victory versus the Dutch Drampas, as the Los Angeles Spark Surfers cruise to their 4-0 win versus the Philadelphia Fampies. In the Sun Division, the Big Fat Groudons secure another 6-0 against the San Francisco 49tails, while the London Luxrays bounce back with a 4-0 versus the Memphis Grimmsnarls. Rounding out the division, the NorCal Electivires pick up their first win against the Pittsburgh Poltergeists for the 2-0, and lastly, the Ottawa Garchomps secure the 4-0 versus the Dallas Star Raptors. So with the standings out of the way, let's go ahead and just get into the kill leaders. The overall kill leaders, we have number 1, Excadrill at 8-1, Lando with a 7-0 record. Then number 3 and number 4 is a tie with Mega Salamence and Mega Metagross each having 6-1 records. And then the number 5, 6, and 7 slot is Mega Lucario, Arceus-Ghost, and Marshadow all in a tie with 5-1 records. But let's go into the specific kill leaders for this week and what enabled those wins. Starting off with my team, of course, we have my Arceus-Ghost versus Thomas's Dutch Drampa team. Really, the enabling win for this was just the bulky combination of Slowbro and Audino resisting a lot of those hits, as well as the ability to Wish Pass with Audino. Of course, Alolan Muck does prove to be a very pivotal factor here. It just has huge chip damage, strong natural bulk, so it's able to really spam poison jabs and threaten out members like the Poliwrath and the Zapdos for the long term. That gives me opportunities to bring in the Arceus later on, who is basically able to take most of the hits on Thomas's team, get up one Calm Mind, and then after that basically sweep with Judgment. So all goes to the natural high bulk of Arceus, the ability to get up one Calm Mind and do a huge amount of damage. All those things are really just the crucial factors for my win. So 3-0 record for Arceus and a 6-0 win for me. Going to the next battle, however, we do have the Ice versus Maliekpie match. Maliekpie does have an initial advantage here, just the huge special bulk of Ho-Oh, the ability to spam Mystical Fire, and the Toxic to cripple some of the slower bonds. It's really going to be a pivotal factor there. However, Ice really has a lot of pressure on his team as well, especially with the Shaman Sky. The ability to substitute and Leech Seed repeatedly, spam Air Slash with a 60% flinch chance, and then that huge special attack stat is going to pressure Maliekpie in the long run. Maliekpie does have some quite bulky mons, has some flying resist rather with Jirachi, but the lack of kind of long-term recovery is going to make it harder to repeatedly come in. So ultimately, that plus the combination of Gothorita trapping with Cosmic Power and Stored Power, and then of course Zygarde reliably spamming its 1,000 arrows is going to give Ice the 6-0 win and a 3-0 record for both Gothorita and Zygarde. Going into the next match here, we have Bailey versus Cool Kicker. Both kind of have a difficult problem setting up pressure initially, kind of just switching back and forth. However, Bailey does have a significant advantage just due to the fact that he is bringing the bulky Togekiss, which is going to have enough special defense to kind of reliably take on the Yveltal, heal Bell the rest of the team, and provide Air Slash support, of course. Excadrill is also going to be another problem for Cool Kicker, just given the fact that it is a choice band set with a reliable spam in Iron Head and Earthquake. Later on, we do see that a kind of crucial crit happens, or actually rather first the miss happens with the Defog versus the Diamond Storm missing, which is going to be pretty significant for knocking the chip on the Togekiss. And then later on we do see right here the Iron Head landing on Mantine and actually getting a crit here. So that inability to be able to successfully recover following that crit, as well as the prior chip on Hippowdon, makes it much more difficult to wall the Excadrill. And then later on, we ultimately see the Excadrill kind of carry the victory for Bailey. So that's a 4-0 for Bailey, and then Excadrill actually takes 5 kills in that match. So well played on his part. And then going into the next match here, we do have Pesky versus Sam. Now Pesky really surprises Sam with a substitute set that's going to be able to block any of the potential status that Arun Regus would want to set up. Is able to break the sub, however, the combination of, I believe, the Earthquake damage plus the Dragon Claw is able to take it out. And then also just seeing a more difficult time to really take down that Garchomp that has the leftovers. So Sam feels the need to Endeavor here, or Swords Dance followed up by Endeavor, but that plus the combination of Excel Rock is not going to take it out at that range. And so it's still able to live and ultimately take out the Lycanroc. But a Hidden Power Ice is able to take it out, but not without, of course, taking a huge amount of Dragon Claw damage. So kind of like Sam was just already at a disadvantage there with the presence of Garchomp and the substitute, and the also kind of presence of Mesprit being able to set up rocks, support with Thunder Wave, and then make it much more difficult for Giratina to reliably set up. It does get a few para hacks here, as it's unable to get those Calm Mines to break through the Celesteela. So one of the more significant plays there. And then later we do see the Celesteela get broken by the Hoopa Unbound, which through a combination of Gigavolt, Havoc, and Hyperspace Fury is able to break it up. However, ultimately the Leech Seed and the prior chip from Heavy Slam makes it much more difficult for the Hoopa to stay in and take hits. We do see that being a factor as the Mega Houndoom comes in and is able to reliably take it out with Dark Pulse, and ultimately take out the rest of Sam's team with a combination of Fire Blast and Dark Pulse. So just the prior chip on a lot of his Mons, the ability to kind of come in for free after that switch in, enables Pesky's win and gives Houndoom 4 kills, and ultimately gives Pesky the 4-0. But in the number 1 slot here, we do have Raven versus Rufus. Very interesting match, very long match, some very early game reads by both players, kind of double switching here, trying to expect one another's plays. He does get some early game rocks from Rufus' side. However, the fact that he cannot reliably pressure Corviknight is going to be a significant factor. It's going to take quite a lot from a body press later on here. We do see around turn 31 the Sacred Fire come out from Entei onto the Gligar, which is a crit. However, the Gligar does get an Earthquake off, which is going to really inhibit Entei's ability to come in reliably, and of course Gligar can just roost and recover. So there are a few trades just like that where they ultimately go in Raven's favor just because of the fact that he has a reliable recovery. So those end up proving to be rather costly for Rufus. And then I think later on in this match we do see, at some point here, yeah, I believe we see the Crocodile come in to try to get some Stealth Rocks at the expense of going down to Corviknight. The logic here was, of course, that Entei would pressure out the Corviknight, maybe fake a double as he does to get into Dracovish. And despite the fact that he is able to take out the Gligar here with a Moonblast crit, it ultimately doesn't matter because the Corviknight can come back in and just defog. However, Rufus is able to get the Dragapult with, I think, 2 Dragon Dances here, and ultimately KO with Never Ending Nightmare, which is good for getting rid of the Corviknight. However, the kind of inability to reliably pressure the Reverse Sweep Ditto and the huge bulk with things like Titanol makes it much more difficult for Rufus to break through Raven's team. And then later on, we do see a situation where the Mega Lucario is able to get off some opportunities to sweep with a Agility and actually, I think, 2 Swords Dances. So that just huge, massive attack stat, plus the strong dual stab of both Meteor Mash and Close Combat, give Lucario actually, I believe, 4 kills in this win, and a, I think 4-0 record for Raven. So, well done on his part. But going into the feature match here, I believe we actually have, we have Potion Seller versus Ace Trainer, yeah. So Ace Trainer really coming back with a surprise win against Potion Seller, so I'll just briefly go into the plays and then what facilitated that success. So the match really actually starts off at a disadvantage for Ace Trainer. The Wood Hammer does take out the Araquanid from full, so it prevents the webs from getting set up, which is obviously going to be a huge part of Ace's strategy. Is able to bring in the Slacking to force out the Gengar while going for a safe Body Slam, but does eat the Energy Ball relatively well, and of course gets back some recovery. But by turn 6, we see that he is able to get into the Zekrom and get off a Dragon Dance. And this is here where we notice that the Toxapex actually does not have Haze, and rather has Toxic and Knockoff. So really just not able to reliably pressure the Zekrom turns out to be a huge factor here, as he is able to get a Bolt Strike and KO from full, of course. The poison damage means it's going to switch out, and then just basically the speed of a lot of Ace's Pokemon makes it much more difficult for Potion Seller to reliably check him offensively. So although he is able to get some prior chip damage there and get the Slaking from Life Orb recoil, later we see, I believe in this turn, he does get off the Obstagoon with an Obstruct to activate the Flame Orb and block the Kangaskhan's Fake Out. So that's going to be crucial later on in the match, although I think the Infernape does go down to a Sucker Punch, and the Zekrom, misses a Volt Strike, unfortunately. The Obstagoon is basically layered to come in, or after the Darmanitan turn rather, the Obstagoon can come in from here, and then outspeed and destroy the rest of Potion Seller's team. So really just that speed ended up being a pivotal factor of this Obstruct here, of course, lowering Tapu Bulu's defense. and kind of the lack of reliable checks on electric types, especially on Potion Seller's team, was a big factor in getting the Toxapex out of the way. So a good comeback by Ace Trainer, definitely. But yeah, on the other side of the match, I think a lack of a solid ground resist, or lack of a solid electric resist beyond Torterra would have been a huge difference. And obviously running Haze on Toxapex would be very significant. But on Ace Trainer's side, similarly the observations I made last week, I think you should definitely prep for situations where the opponent knows you'll be reliant on sticky webs, and pack things like Magic Coat, Magic Bounce, or simply taunting or breaking your Araquanid before it can set up. And then making sure you have a solid defensive core that can support your sweepers with hazards or recovery options, as well as special sweepers, just to really prevent a bad Scald from bringing a lot of what this battle could be an example, or what made this battle successful was the fact that Toxapex didn't have Scald. So that's going to be it for the feature battle. Just a good comeback for Ace, I think well played on his part. But I do want to say, guys, we're 3 weeks into the league, and I'll just say that if you're one of our participants, whether it's the A or the B League, don't hesitate to reach out to the other community members for team advice or scrim practice. I know many of us are willing to give just a few pointers here and there, and ultimately that's one of the goals at DTC is not just enjoying the game, but to learn and grow from it while we're doing it. So folks, that's going to be it for the highlights of week 3. If you like this content and you want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. Of course, let me know if you enjoy this format or if you want to add more or drop certain segments. Definitely check out the B highlights on Rutgers' side. I'll leave a link in the description for that. But above all, continue to support and enjoy the DTC Draft League, and I will see you next time. Peace out.